Esteemed guests and colleagues, bienvenidos. Welcome to the 2021 U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Conference Luncheon. We are now pleased to share these messages from our corporate partners.
We are the strong, the tenacious, and compassionate members of diverse communities. We don't let others define us. We remember our roots, while bravely writing the script for our own future. We have an undeniable zest for life and a heart that beats with resounding determination. We celebrate you. When we come together, we can create limitless possibilities for all. Vayamos juntos.
It took years to build a successful business. When COVID hit, everything changed for me.
Meet Michelle. For years, Michelle has helped empower other entrepreneurs from her boutique in Brooklyn, carrying clothing lines from other Black designers alongside her own.
I see my boutique as a platform for my community, so when COVID struck, I had to pivot because the livelihoods of other artists were at stake. MasterCard Digital Doors helped my business evolve.
MasterCard Digital Doors helps local businesses pivot to digital. It starts with a questionnaire that provides custom solutions.
It felt like someone was listening and helping me write my next chapter.
Michelle received Intuit QuickBooks training, cybersecurity monitoring from Risk Recon, and Salesforce Essentials to help manage customers and inventory.
It was a digital makeover, just what I was looking for.
Months later, Michelle's company is stronger than ever, and her physical storefront is safely reopened, too.
Thanks to MasterCard Digital Doors, I'm ready to overcome anything. When my business thrives, my community thrives too.
Welcome, representing our platinum sponsor, MasterCard, the North American Small Business Lead, Ginger Siegel.
Thank you, and thanks to Michelle. On behalf of MasterCard, I want to thank the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for allowing us this tremendous honor to be a part of your ecosystem that will put the wind at the back of small business. I have the pleasure of leading our small business segment for the U.S. and Canada, and we have seen tremendous issues coming out of COVID. But the one bright spot, as I hope you will all agree, is that COVID has shown the light on the importance of small business, as they represent 50% of our gross domestic profit, as well as 53% of employers across the United States. And so what we have been very focused on since COVID is helping small businesses pivot. You may not know this, but there are 30 million small businesses in the US, with Hispanic businesses representing a lot of that number, which you should all be very proud of. You can give yourselves a round of applause, it's great. And I'm very happy to say that of Hispanic-owned businesses, female-owned are leading the way. So congratulations. But of the 30 million small businesses in the US when COVID hit, 9 to 10 million did not have a digital online presence. And so through programs like Digital Doors, we are helping small businesses digitize their businesses so they can meet their consumers where they are. 75% of consumers say they're not going to go back to how they shopped and paid before. So what we have to do is work together to help small businesses develop their online presence, make sure they can accept payments in a digital fashion, and decrease the use of checks and cash. And so with Digital Doors, we hope to do that. The Hispanic population and the Hispanic small business segment is so important to us that we have partnered with programs like Hello Alice. And there's some great research that just came out, and Hispanic businesses need help right now with a number of different things, including marketing, customer acquisition, and helping to operationalize their business. And I want to congratulate all of you for the work that you do every day within your local chambers to help small businesses get to where they go. MasterCard is thrilled to partner. I personally would love to speak to any of you individually, but what I want to thank also is Mercedes and Jimmy back there from Master Your Card. They're great partners of ours, and they've got some amazing programs to share. So with that, enjoy your lunch and enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you.
Representing our sponsor nationwide, the Vice President of Enterprise Marketing, Brad Barnett.
Good afternoon. Hey now, audience participation here. Good afternoon. Hey, Nationwide is honored to once again be a part of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce annual conference. This event and our partnership with you are vital to how we do business every single day. In my family, the interests of small businesses run deep. My sister owns 2 early child care education schools, my brother a general contracting company, and we are proud to have had a grocery store in our family for over 100 years. I've seen firsthand how the past 2 years have forced them to change operations, challenged them in hiring qualified people, and led to all-time high stress levels. But like many of you, in the face of those challenges, they've succeeded. So congratulations to so many of you in the room that have had to do that. Now more than ever, the Chamber's mission is critical, and Nationwide wants to continue its commitment to the Hispanic business owners community, helping you not only survive, but thrive for years to come. Charles Darwin famously said, "It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change." As you continue to recover, change, and grow, remember, and this is the audience participation part, Nationwide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barnett, for joining us. Estimados colegas, welcome USHCC board member and Vice President of the Miami Hub Operations for American Airlines, Juan Carlos Liscano.
Brad is on my side. Thank you, Brad. Okay, so waiting on remarks. Good afternoon y buenas tardes to everybody. Mi nombre es Juan Carlos Liscano, and I'm the Vice President for American Airlines at Miami. I want to recognize all of you here today for the incredible work that you've been doing over this last year, leading the recovery of businesses throughout the communities across the United States. It has been a time like no other for the world, really. And I know that many of you in this room have been critical of keeping the world connected and our communities afloat. But look, since 2018, I've been fortunate to lead American's operation at our Miami hub. That is the airline's leading international gateway. And as the largest carrier in South Florida, we understand the importance of being an integral part in the communities that we serve. By the way, not just in Miami, but the extension of our communities in Latin America and the Caribbean. And we celebrate the work that you have done because we've understood how difficult it is to help rebuild and recover. So COVID-19 has had an enormous impact on businesses throughout the country, with business owners like Chef Leticia Mitchell being one of the hardest hit groups. Chef Leticia is a household name in Mexican food here in Las Vegas. And through the years, she's been recognized by a number of prestigious organizations and publications, as well as the Food Network, the Cooking Channel, just to name a few. Now, Chef Leticia knows about determination, passion, grit, ganas, right? Opening her first restaurant in the middle of the recession in 2009. Since then, she's continued to scale her business. And just 1 year ago, think about this, 1 year ago, while we're all reeling from the impact of COVID-19, she opened her third restaurant, Leti's de Leticia's Cocina. So I hope you go have cena there. Chef Leticia is a Hispanic powerhouse and a picture of perseverance. So please join me in welcoming Chef Leticia Mitchell to the stage with an incredible round of applause.
Wow. Bienvenidos y muy buenas tardes a todos. Qué gusto me da. Buenas tardes. Eso. It's not only a pleasure and honor, es un gusto, un honor. Wow. When they asked me if I can come up and say a few words, it was like, but I'm just, Leti. And, the reason I'm here shaking and everything, I haven't done this in years, is because I want my community to know there's always an option. There's an opportunity. And just by giving you a little bit of my background, maybe you would get inspired or inspire someone in your community that they're looking at their dreams to do something such. A man's world that was chefs, and we have so many women now that are becoming world-renowned known chefs, and it's just amazing and incredible to be a part of that. In this community, con eso me basta ahorita. But let me go back a little bit. As a young mother, I was a busser, I was a server, I ended up doing insurance, helping an insurance company really come up and above within the Hispanic community. And I noted that I really need to be a part of my community. I came to Las Vegas in 1964. My father immigrated us here because he was contracted by the Dunes at the Sultan's Table that was built for his group, Los Violines Mágicos de la Vía Fontana de Arturo Romero. And he immigrated us here, got us started, and within a year and a half, he passed away in a tragic car accident and left my mother with 5 children, hardly the language. But I tell you that because my mother taught us to work hard, and in this country, anything is possible if you work hard. We saw her determination to bring her children up ahead, and I can tell you it was, she rests in peace, that it was incredible and very difficult. But I did the insurance, I got involved in my community, and all of a sudden I'm being asked if I would be a part of, by the mayor, of a nonprofit that invests Fortune 500 monies into blight destitute communities, and if I would interview for an organizer, if I could help them. What do I know about that, But I said, absolutely, absolutely. I was one of 3, and I was the successful one that developed a nonprofit of the Latinos and minorities in a very Hispanic, low minority or low-income minority community that was very multi-family and had no. It was so amazing. And now I'm seeing the time, and oh my gosh, I've overdid it. But in now being a restaurateur and going through this pandemic, I've had to switch myself around from cooking, which is my passion and love, to becoming an applicant of learning how to apply, because we don't have the resources and means of PPP, EIDL, RRF grants, and everything possible, the Latin Chamber also. And I gotta tell you, if it wasn't for that, I don't know if we could be here. So everything is possible, and my motto that I live by is never, never, never give up. Muchas gracias a todos. Bienvenidos.
Joining us live virtually with the presentation The Path to Inclusive Growth is Senior Partner at McKinsey & Company, Lucy Perez.
Muchísimas gracias y buenas tardes a todos. I'm Lucy Perez from McKinsey & Company's Boston office. Today, I want to talk to you about how much potential we see in the economy in segments that are often overlooked. Sometimes this is a story that has pessimistic undertones, but our research is showing some positive indicators that I want to share with you. My dad was a small business owner in Puerto Rico, so leading McKinsey's research on Latino economic participation is something that is very personal to me and why I'm so appreciative of this opportunity to share with all of you. Though I have to say, I wish I could have been in Las Vegas with you all for this conversation. Let's start by stating the obvious, and many of the speakers have spoken to this. The last 18 months have been very hard for the Hispanic community. We've seen a disproportionate number of COVID cases and deaths, and this has been influenced both by the living and working conditions impacting this community. When we look at from a livelihoods perspective, the 5 sectors that have been hardest hit in the pandemic, whether we're talking leisure and hospitality, retail and trade, transportation, construction, and services, are the same 5 sectors that employ 65% of Hispanic workers. But this community plays a larger role that is often overlooked. Let's take a look at what the numbers say as we go to the next slide. What you can see here is that Latinas today account for 17% of workers in the US. This is a number that will grow to 1 in 3 by 2030, to 1 in 5 by 2060. And if we focus on the younger joiners of the workforce, it's a number that gets even larger as we think about the relative youth of this community. If we look at the GDP that this community is responsible for, we're talking about $2.3 trillion of GDP. If this were an independent country, we're talking about the 8th largest nation in the world. And this is extremely significant. You look at this and coupled with the fact that the Latino labor force is actually significantly higher than white labor force in the US, and all these factors together paint a picture of how pivotal Latinos are to the future of the US. Complementing this is we're increasingly seeing the markers of a strong economy. I am sure you're all noticing it is a hot jobs market that we're seeing right now. It is extremely hard to find people. And this is true whether you're looking for a small restaurant or you're looking to find new workers for a large corporation. It is true whether you're looking for low-skilled employees or high-skilled employees. If we go to the next slide, we see the latest labor market data. And what you see here is striking growth in the number of job openings, the largest number that we have seen in the last decade, hitting 6.9% rate of what it, if we translate into number of jobs, that is 11 million open jobs. At the same time, the hiring rate has actually stayed fairly constant, around 4.5 or 6.7 million jobs, really creating a big gap in job openings. Let's be clear, we're still not at pre-pandemic employment levels, but the trajectory is very clear. There is opportunity and we're in the midst of a growing labor market. But what is going on is that not only are we seeing this growth in job openings, there is a big shift in employees' attitudes towards work. And what our research is showing on this next page is that right now, people are really taking a second look at their job and thinking about it in a different way. And the striking number that we see is that about 40% of employees are considering leaving their job in the next 3 to 6 months. This is a huge number and something that can be highly disruptive. Often people think this is about compensation, but that is not the full picture. What we're seeing and the research clearly shows is that employees' attitudes are changing, and what's motivating thinking about leaving their current job is a combination of factors that have to do with how they feel valued. Do they feel a sense of belonging and trust in their organization? Do they see opportunities for advancement? Are there flexible work opportunities that can help balance those professional and personal commitments? And this is true independent of industry, we see similar trends across different races and ethnicities and different income levels. And we're not the only ones seeing this. When you look to the right here, you see several other organizations that have conducted similar research, and the numbers are consistent. And you can choose to look at this as an opportunity or a big challenge. What this highlights is the criticality of thinking holistically about your employees and what you're offering, how you're thinking about attraction, retention, and development to create a more attractive work environment. And that will ultimately determine whether you are facing the great attrition or instead the great attraction. As we go to the next slide, what we see here is that we are seeing a lot of different trends impacting the types of jobs that are becoming available. So what you see is that in the US, the areas of opportunity are really concentrating, particularly as we look at health-related jobs and those involving science and technology-driven jobs. And this is not surprising given the focus on technology adoption and additional emphasis on healthcare. On the other hand, what we see on the right-hand side of this slide is that there are jobs such as those in food and customer service, where unfortunately there's a disproportionate number of Latinos that are facing a decline. And this is driven by multiple factors. The pandemic has certainly accelerated trends in terms of where are the jobs and what is going to be required to access these jobs. And one of the most striking findings that we have found is that the majority of the jobs that before the pandemic remained in the low wages and high wages, because the factors such as automation, international trade, and technology adoption were impacting the middle wage jobs. Post-pandemic, what we're seeing is that the labor demand is heavily concentrated on high wage jobs. And that is going to impact the need to reskill and upskill our workers pretty significantly. In the US, we're talking about more than 10% of the workforce needing to be upskilled or reskilled to be able to access these jobs. And this is actually a great opportunity. As we look at the next slide, what you see here is the magnitude of this upskilling that needs to happen and how it impacts different parts of the community. And so when we think about the Hispanic workforce, this becomes something that is especially critical because of the larger proportion that we have of young workers who are Hispanic, similarly, a large proportion of workers that do not have college degrees. And so it becomes increasingly critical to get the reskilling right, to be able to create the opportunities to take advantage of this growing economy that we are facing and embracing today. And so as you think about the opportunities ahead, I will leave you with a couple of messages. Think about those opportunities that you have to reconfigure workplace culture and empower your workers, foster a sense of belonging and inclusion for all employees, understand how technology is going to impact your sector and embrace it, and keep embedding a culture that celebrates lifelong learning. If anything, we've learned in the last 18 months is that change is the new normal. There is an opportunity to create a path towards these better jobs. And I look forward to seeing the opportunities and the growth that this community can drive in the US going forward. Thanks again for the opportunity to join you today. And please, if you want to learn more about this research, reach out or visit our website. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Perez.
The United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, during our national convention in Las Vegas, Nevada, is honored to sign a memorandum of understanding with Camacol, the Latin Chamber of Commerce of the United States of America, In memory of the historic ties and common origins of both organizations, we share a strong interest for economic development and serving the more than 5 million Latino and Latina businesses in our country. It is an honor for the USHCC, our president and CEO, and our National Board of Directors to partner with our sister chamber, Camacol, during our national conference in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Bitwise Industries. We believe in the untapped potential of underestimated humans.
We believe underestimated humans are the answer to a representative tech workforce.
We believe in leveraging this tech workforce and public-private partnerships to build and strengthen digital infrastructure equitably in underserved cities.
We believe that revitalized, vibrant downtowns promote entrepreneurship. We're Bitwise Industries. Join the movement.
Identity is a creative production company telling diverse stories through commercials, branded content, and TV film. Our goal is simple: to help brands connect to the over 60 million Latinos in the U.S. Our content inspires, motivates, and educates our community. We look forward to working with you and have a great conference.
Grupo is a multifaceted enterprise with over 1,200 talented employees. Headquartered in Milan, Illinois, Grupo provides business process solutions for Fortune 500 companies. Learn more at grupo.com.
They might be called Hispanic small businesses, but there's nothing small about them. And at PepsiCo, there's nothing small about our commitment to small businesses, because there's nothing small about their commitment to their community, to become an extension of its voice and their desire to move forward. For their familia, for their gente. With funds, grants, and coaching, we stand by their side every step of the way. Porque juntos crecemos.
Estimados colegas, friends, and guests, we hope you enjoyed your lunch. And before we continue our program, we'd like to offer a virtual abrazo to the Berks County Latino Chamber of Commerce, joining us virtually from Reading, Pennsylvania. We see you and we're happy you're here. And now, to continue our program, a message from our sponsor, DoorDash.
Hello. 110,000 restaurants closed nationwide, 18% of which were Latino-owned and themed. 2.5 million jobs erased. A majority of Latino jobs disappeared. In 2020, restaurant sales dropped from $899 billion to $240 billion. Our sector is currently strained by pricing issues, labor issues, and supply chain issues. The LRA is a resource center for the Latino restaurant business community and currently focused on those issues that I just mentioned, and of course, economic recovery, stability, and growth. So enter the Latino Restaurant Association. Free membership today. That's my shameless plug. Who are we? We are a national organization based in Los Angeles with over 800 members, 811 to be exact. Not only do we aim to show America how important Latinos are in this sector, both labor and ownership, we also have a vision to introduce everyone to what I consider to be some of the most exciting food offerings anywhere on the planet, Latino cuisine. Follow us today on Instagram. Thank you. My name is Lily Rocha. I'm the CEO of the Latino Restaurant Association, and I would love to connect with you. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, welcome U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce board member, Victor Arias.
Órale! All right. Well, it's good to see all these great faces here. It is my privilege to introduce a gentleman that's a big contributor to our community. But before that, I'm going to take a little bit of personal privilege to recognize a legendary figurehead in our country who has impacted so many American lives and more significantly, more importantly, many Latinos, Latinas, and Mexicanos. This past Friday, this lady passed away 2 years after retiring as president from the University of Texas at El Paso. Yeah. Go Miners. Diana Natalicio, she was known for all the contributions she made for educating Latinos and Latinas and Mexicanos on the other side of the border in El Paso, Chihuahua. She engendered pride into a community that needed it most, and she made limonada from limones. She made it a place of pride, and she compelled students to become scientists, astronauts, engineers, business executives, teachers. So she'll be missed, but never forgotten. A moment of silence. Thank you. On a higher note, let's hear from our next person that's going to join us. He currently serves as the chief of the U.S. Census Bureau's Office of Congressional and Intergovernmental Affairs. I mean, if counting Latino bodies today is critical, this is it. Prior to joining the census, Dr. Colon Rivera served as a senior advisor to Senator Robert Menendez. In this role, he spearheaded a lot of the Latino issues for for Senator Menendez and was the staff lead for the Senate Democratic Hispanic Task Force and principal liaison to the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Before joining Senator Menendez, he served as an assistant to Maryland Senator Ben Cardin and did a lot of work in the Prince George's County office. And part of this, he was a policy advisor to the U.S. Commission on Security and Cooperation in Europe and of the House of Representatives. His primary responsibilities involve translating research into public policy recommendations on immigration, human trafficking, housing, and homelessness. He is a former public policy fellow at the University of Nebraska Public Policy Center. He got his doctorate in social community psychology from the University of Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras in San Juan. Are there any Puerto Ricans in the crowd? Oh, I knew you'd bring them out. So it's my pleasure to bring out Ángel Colón Rivera. Please give him a warm welcome.
Buenos días. Un provecho a todos. Hope you're all having a happy Hispanic Heritage Month. I'd like to thank the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for inviting the Census Bureau to participate in their annual gathering. As their representative, I'm afforded the opportunity to talk to you about some of the wonderful initiatives that the Bureau undertakes and how its data gathering mission can help Hispanic business owners across the country. As many of you know, about a week and a half ago, the Census Bureau released the results of its 2020 decennial census on its website, data.census.gov. This means that anyone with a computer and an internet connection can go access Census website and their data and see how many people live in the United States today, down to the census block level. So if you've been looking at the screen, you'll see that, for example, in 2020, there were 62.1 million Latinos and Latinas living in the United States today. The Hispanic population grew 23% over the last decade, while the non-Hispanic population only grew 4.3%. People of Hispanic descent now make up 18.7% of the US population. That means nearly 1 in 5 people living in the United States today has Hispanic heritage with them. And slightly more than half, 51%, of the total population growth over the last decade came from the growth from our communities. So, you see the slide, you can see where most of our communities are actually living. But I also want to take the time to talk about some other wonderful initiatives that the Census Bureau undertakes. So, for example, some particular tool that might be useful to our communities, the Hispanic business owner community, is the annual business survey. The ABS provides economic and demographic data on characteristics for business and business owners by sex, ethnicity, race, and veteran status. Some of you may have known the ABS as the survey of business owners and the annual survey of entrepreneurs, but it's been consolidated into the annual business survey. Using ABS data, as you can see from this slide, in 2018, there were a total of 331,625 Hispanic-owned businesses operating across the United States. As you can see, the pie chart has them divided by the number of employees that each of those businesses had, and as you can appreciate that just over half of our population of our Hispanic-owned businesses employ between 1 and 4 people. First look estimates from the 2020 Annual Business Survey were also released this August, which included data at the national level and include preliminary statistics on the highest level of education completed by those business owners. Additionally, over the summer, the Census Bureau issued estimates of exporting firms by demographic characteristics, including sex, ethnicity, race, and veteran status. The Census Bureau also issues the gold standard for current American economic statistics. We all know this as the economic census. Every 5 years, the United States Census Bureau conducts the economic census, which serves as the foundation for the United States system of economic statistics. It includes such quality economic indicators such as the gross domestic product and other leading economic indicators. The economic census is the most comprehensive measure of the U.S. economy, providing industry statistics on the national, state, and local level. This information is also used by business, policymakers, governments, and communities for economic development, business decisions, and strategic planning. The planning and preparation for the 2022 economic census is already underway, and we've already submitted a Federal Register notice to request comments for that census. Some of the newly planned topics that we will be collecting in the 2022 economic census will be innovative topics such as robotics, human capital, telemedicine, and electric vehicles. We're also partnering with the United States Department of Agriculture to collect data on agricultural support activities. But up until now, I've outlined some of the data products that the Census Bureau puts out on behalf of the American public. And I would strongly recommend that the Hispanic business owner community here today reach out to our representatives and to the Census Bureau to see how we can be of assistance in providing data to your communities. However, the topic of today's plenary session is Hispanic business after the global pandemic. Now, as many of you know, the Bureau undertook the Herculean task of collecting its once-a-decade census during the pandemic, and we thank many of you for partnering and helping getting out the word so that people could fill out their census. That also included the collecting of information of the smaller surveys that we do at the Census Bureau. And so a lot of the data that we collected on Hispanic businesses will be out next year, because theoretically we're still technically not out of the woods with this pandemic. So that said, in an effort to meet the needs of the American public during a moment of crisis, the Bureau created a series of pulse surveys which provided high-frequency data about the challenges Americans are facing during the COVID-19 pandemic. One of those surveys is the Small Business Pulse Survey. This survey is an email-only collection that reaches approximately 100,000 small businesses weekly. This survey collects information on everything from businesses' location, closings, openings, changes in employment, workplace vaccine and testing requirements, supply chain disruptions, new workplace norms, changes in demand for goods and services, and price changes from suppliers. So it's a very comprehensive survey that we've created during the COVID-19 pandemic. If you'll see from my next slide, you'll see that there's a comparison of a sample of industries from 1 year shortly after the pandemic started on August 2020 to this year, this last August in 2021, of a sample of industries as classified by the North American Industry Classification System, of industries that reported a large negative effect over the coronavirus pandemic. So for example, if you'll see the NAICS code number 22, which is the second from the right, the industries that provided utilities such as electric energy, water supply, and sewage saw little negative effects from the pandemic in August of last year. However, by August of this year, those same industries were reporting higher negative effects by the pandemic. The same can be said across the board for other industries, as you can see from the comparison of 2020 through 2021. But luckily, if you appreciate both graphs, you could see that the effects of the pandemic are stemming from the challenges that we experienced in last year, from the challenges that we're experiencing this year. Some other examples of the data that we collect from the Small Business Survey is, and for example, this is data from August 16th, of this year, 24.4% of US small businesses reported a decrease in revenue in the last week as compared to July of this year, when only 20% of small businesses reported loss of revenue. So the beauty of the small business survey is that it's collected almost on a monthly basis, so you can do the comparison of how small businesses are being affected almost in real time. Another statistic that we've compiled is that only 9.1% of U.S. small businesses required employees to have proof of COVID-19 vaccination before coming to work during the week of August 16th. Or for example, that 69% of the U.S. accommodation and food services and small businesses in that industry experienced difficulty in hiring paid employees. I feel like this is a sentiment that's been mentioned in other presentations throughout the day. The national average for that statistic is 34.7%. So that means that the food services and small businesses in the food service industry are experiencing almost twice the hardship than your average business and industry in hiring paid employees. So these are just a fraction of the data that that the Census Bureau collects. I hope hasn't been too boring. So I'll end my presentation here, and you'll have the contact information for our partnership service. So if anybody wants to collaborate with the census, find out more about how they can become involved in getting our statistics that can help you move forward and move your businesses forward, we're more than happy to speak to you after this presentation. So thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Dr. Colón Rivera. Esteemed colleagues, welcome the Wells Fargo Senior Vice President of External Engagement, Ruben Barrales.
Hello, everybody. Did anyone lose their wallet, this black wallet? Now that I have your attention. Good afternoon, everybody. Proud to introduce the next segment, which features a fireside chat between Wells Fargo CEO and our Hispanic Chamber leader, Ramiro Cavazos. Two great names. As you'll see, Charlie is a very approachable and inclusive leader. His experience includes running major corporations across the country, including BNY Mellon and Visa Corporation before he took the helm at Wells Fargo. As our new CEO, Charlie is leading the important changes at Wells Fargo, which are helping to make us a better bank. And he's leading with a focus on diversity and inclusion, which includes identifying and personally meeting regularly with leading emerging Latinos and Latinas within Wells Fargo on a monthly basis. Together with our Hispanic Latino Executive Forum, Charlie is encouraging us to identify the issues most important to us as employees and as members of our communities. With Charlie's leadership, we're driving to make Wells Fargo a better bank for Latino employees, for our Latino customers, our Latino suppliers, and the Latino communities that we serve. And for example, as you heard at yesterday's breakfast, Wells Fargo is proud to announce our Open for Business Fund grant of $1 million to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And as you know, Ramiro and the team, partnering with other Latino organizations, they're going to be providing technical assistance to Latino-owned businesses all across this country. So Charlie isn't able to join us today in person, but he insisted on being a part of our convention. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on the screen Wells Fargo CEO Charlie Scharf and Ramiro Cavazos. Thank you.
Well, welcome everyone. We're so excited today to have with us Charlie Scharf, the president and CEO of Wells Fargo. Charlie assumed his leadership position exactly 2 years ago on September 27th, 2019. On behalf of our board of directors and our chairwoman, Alice Rodriguez, this was an important opportunity for us to visit with Charlie, with one of the largest banks in the world, but quite frankly, before the pandemic, the leading lender for Small Business Administration loans for small business. I want to thank everyone who's joined us today in person and virtual. this is a great opportunity for us to visit with a great corporate citizen that we respect and believe is a big help to the future of rebuilding our economy. Charlie, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really great to be here.
Well, Charlie, we have about 10 minutes, probably less than 10 minutes now, but I know that you've had your hands full since you assumed your new position, and I want you to know that we need partners to be successful, as you know, in this economy, especially with the times that we're living in. And we have the opportunity to understand your vision for Wells Fargo, but also for the economy. And I have the opportunity to ask you 3 questions on behalf of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So it's a pleasure to represent our board of directors, our 260 Hispanic chambers, our more than 5 million Hispanic-owned businesses, and many corporations such as yours that are investing in rebuilding our economy. So Charlie, let me start out with the first question. Wanted to say that most people know Wells Fargo as a mainstream bank, as you know, and I wanted to see if you could talk to us about how you help serve small businesses, and particularly our minority and Hispanic-owned and diverse-owned businesses. How has that changed during this pandemic, and how do you see us moving forward?
Sure. Well, I guess I would start with just, our understanding as a company. I mean, this is something which is just in our culture is, we do believe that we're in business to help the people and the communities where we operate. That's the heart that drives the work that gets done here. And we understand how important small businesses are to the communities and to the economies that we are represented in far more broadly. We understand what they do to help drive employment, what they do to help support individuals and also larger businesses around. And so as we think about what we need to do from a business perspective, small business is an incredibly important part of the focus of our company and will continue to be. We exhibit that, I think, as you mentioned, by being, one of the largest small business lenders in the country. In federal fiscal year 22 alone, we approved over $540 million worth of loans. But you also asked about how our perspective and our activities have changed as we entered the pandemic and continue to progress through, hopefully, to what will be an end sometime here near in the future. We saw very, very quickly that this was going to disproportionately impact small businesses. And so we said that we had to do something to help. Participation in the PPP effort was obviously a hugely significant part of that. But what we decided to do is we decided to take all of the fees the government was going to pay us, which was $420 million in that first round, and to say that we're going to give it back to the communities that we serve, to offer capital training and long-term support. Our emphasis was on racially and ethnically diverse-owned companies, targeted predominantly at the smaller size companies. And so, there's been a tremendous amount of funding driven towards Black, Hispanic, Asian, as well as Native American and other diverse small businesses. And we think that the work that we're doing is really focused around getting towards strong outcomes to help those communities. And then I guess the last thing that I'll just say here is we've also had the opportunity to step back and say, just as a business, what should we be doing to making sure that we're doing everything we can to support diverse communities, including Hispanic communities? So the first thing we did is we created a bigger job reporting directly to me, hired someone from the outside, a Hispanic gentleman named Clever Santos, to be responsible not only for our DE&I efforts, but to look at diverse segments across all of our businesses with the goal of saying, are we doing everything we can to put our capabilities together to help diverse small businesses thrive and flourish? We're at the beginning of that journey. The Hispanic effort is hugely significant part of that, just given how important the Hispanic population is, given the footprint that we have. And I'm really excited to have that effort expand what we've always currently viewed as something, really important for us.
Well, Charlie, you have answered the question to show that Wells Fargo is committed to making sure that small business is seen as big business for our economy. And, our chairwoman, Alice Rodriguez, is very thankful that you joined us, because she said, we got to have Charlie on, even though she works for a competitor bank at JP Morgan Chase. But it shows that partnership between all of our financial institutions is critical. It's part of the fabric of the soul of our economy and how we're going to rebuild it. And as you know, the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we're committed to private sector procurement, and that's at the lifeblood of the 5 million Hispanic-owned businesses who need that income to also provide competitive goods and services, but that access to capital is a big part of it. And so I wanted to see if you could tell us what Wells Fargo's commitment is to supplier diversity and procurement. You've already touched on that with your previous answer, and the network of our chambers around the country. How can we continue to expand your goals and make sure that they impact positively the Latino small business community?
Right. Well, I think so. First of all, within Wells Fargo, we have a dedicated supply chain management group. We have a head of supplier diversity. We are very, very clear internally in terms of what the current spend looks like and what we want it to be. In 2020 alone, we spent almost $1.4 billion with diverse suppliers, and we're very focused on Hispanic-owned businesses. In the past 3 years, we've spent over $400 million with certified Hispanic-owned businesses. But I do want to just get back to your comments about Alice and the fact that we're all working together. First of all, I think the world of Alice, and I think you're very lucky to have her as chair. And I worked with her very closely for a long time and always had a huge amount of respect for her. But I think one of the things that we recognize, even as Wells Fargo, given as large as we are, no individual company or no individual organization can do this on their own. We all need work to work together, and we need to work across the different types of organizations that exist. And so, we love the work that we do with you all and the Latino Business Action Network. We love to be able to support you all financially, which I know we're continuing to do more of. But at the same time, in terms of working on making sure that we understand what Latino businesses actually need, what Latino business leaders can learn from us, and where we can help them grow. It's through partnerships that you get a much wider range of coverage. So the activities that we're currently engaged in, will currently engage in, will always involve working with others, because we think that just amplifies the effort that we have underway.
Thank you, Charlie. And we know at the heart of everything that we do, solidarity and collaboration is key to those partnerships. In my last question, Charlie, with the time that we have, I know the workforce in America depends on the Latino community. 63 million, 1 out of every 5 Americans is Hispanic. And I just wanted to see from your point of view how Wells Fargo is positioned to represent getting more Latinos and Latinas at the C-suite level, and the diversity of your executives, and then, of course, on the board of directors of the publicly traded institution that you lead. How is that manifesting itself as we move forward?
Sure. So we're very, very focused on the outcomes around our diversity efforts. And one of the very important outcomes is our own representation inside the company. And the way I would describe it is we don't view this as a project. We view this as a cultural change inside the company, where we expect to judge ourselves and others to judge us based upon the outcomes. We also say it's a sprint, but it's also a marathon. It's a sprint because we need to make progress quickly and show the organization and show the outside world that we're serious about it. But we also recognize that this is going to take a period of time. So the idea of hiring someone of Kleber's caliber, who was a very senior business leader in the industry before he joined us, think was a very important statement. Creation of the job that I mentioned, where it's a very broad job looking at diverse segments as well as representation and inclusion, having it report directly to me, having Kleber's voice. He's on the operating committee, and it just changes the nature of discussions that we have. And so actually changing the representation and changing where we have these is extraordinarily important. And I think one of the most important things that we've done is when we've talked about diversity in the company is we don't just talk broadly about diversity. We don't talk broadly about representation. We don't talk broadly about people of color. We look at each individual group that's underrepresented, and we look at by level, by geography, where are we today and where should we be based upon what the population looks like. So we have more focus than we've ever had on where we stand with the Latino community inside the company and where we want to get to. And in every business review I do across the company, we look at that information, we talk about what we're doing to improve on it to get to a place which is far more representative of this country, and we look to see progress in every meeting each individual time. And just like any other business issue, if you have the facts, if you have the process from a management perspective, if you've got the discipline, if you've got the right people in place to do this and the right culture, we will make progress. And so it's a hugely important effort for me, and that's in addition to the forums that we've created to connect more directly with a broader group of people. So I'm excited about the work we have underway. I'm excited the fact that we've started to make progress, but recognize that we can't rest until we truly have equal representation.
Well, Charlie, we're very excited that you joined us today, and thank you for the integrity of your intentions and your actions. And we look forward to our next fireside chat, you and I hope that we can do it in person and not virtually the way we're doing it this year. But it's great to have your time. Thank you for your support of the Latino business community, Charlie, and we look forward to working with you for many years to come.
Thank you, and I look forward to doing it face-to-face as well.
Thank you, Charlie.
Honored guests, a warm welcome for the President and CEO of the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce, Ernie C. de Vaca.
Hello, everybody. Hey, 2 years ago, we were in Albuquerque. And let me just tell you, congratulations, Peter Guzman and Ramiro and the staff for a great convention. It's a lot of work. I'm telling you, it's a lot of work. I'm going to take the liberty, because I can't, I'm on this podium, you're not going to tackle me, to say a couple things about what's going on here. All this information we're hearing, all this great data that shows we're so far behind and we have so much to do. Please, when you leave this convention and you go back to your business or you go back to your job, don't go back the same way. This is the beginning of a movement starting now that we need to have to change things that we all know that need to be changed. More C-suite jobs, board jobs, higher recognition. So please do that. That's my one ask, and I'm gonna now go to my formal remarks. So each of you in this room play an important role in powering the economic recovery of our country, whether you're a business executive, a Chamber of Commerce leader, an entrepreneur, or an advocate. We all come together to move the needle. These past 2 years have been brutal. The pandemic has brought it to light many existing disparities in our communities and exacerbated the economic divides and digital divides across our country. Many businesses have had to pivot their business model completely. Businesses owned by people of color have exponentially more challenges than their counterparts. Chamber of Commerce have become emergency rooms for small businesses trying to survive. While the USHCC partners with policy leaders at all levels, we strengthened our partnership with the U.S. Small Business Administration during the pandemic. We know that if we do not have a seat at the table, we're on the menu again. So these decisions are made without us. We can't let that happen. So we belong at this table. We belong with, and the SBA has embraced our collaboration. On behalf of my fellow USHCC board members, please join me in welcoming two great leaders to continue our discussion: the U.S. Small Business Administrator, Isabella Casillas Guzman, and our USHCC Executive Board Member and General Counsel, Raul Salinas of Alvarado Smith.
Just 6 months ago, on March 17, 2021, Isabel Casillas Guzman was sworn in as the 27th Administrator of the U.S. Small Business Administration. Let me say that again. 6 months ago, Isabella Casillas Guzman became our U.S. Small Business Administrator. She serves as the voice for America's 30 million small businesses and innovative startups in President Biden's cabinet. Administrator Guzman grew up in a small business family and has been an entrepreneur herself. She spent her entire career advising entrepreneurs, launching ventures, helping small businesses navigate government, and creating policies and programs to help advance entrepreneurship and innovation. Most recently, she served as the director of the California office of the Small Business Advocate, where she helps small businesses, innovative startups in the world's 5th largest economy, start, expand, and grow. She advocated fiercely for financial relief for small businesses and focused on expanding assistance to entrepreneurs in underserved communities. In addition, she served as the Economic Recovery Support Function Coordinator of the state, where she spearheaded the small business recovery effort during the COVID-19 pandemic. Administrator Guzman, welcome to the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce National Conference, the more than 1,000 registrants, and many more who are joining us virtually. We are so glad to have you here present.
Thank you. Thank you, Raul, for having me. And it's a pleasure to be here, especially with all the leaders of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber. I wish I could be there live, because this is a little bit awkward not knowing exactly where we're at in the process. But just know that my heart is there with you all.
Well, thank you.
As you're leading in this effort.
Thank you, Administrator Guzman. I want to start out on a personal note with you, and I'd like to ask you, how did your life's journey and your professional career prepare you for the role that you now hold as the U.S. Small Business Administrator?
Yeah, well, I think that my early life was really formative. I know for Latino communities broadly, the American dream is about entrepreneurship and that small business creation and building wealth for our families and our communities and creating pathways of opportunity for our future generations. And this was true for my own family. As you mentioned, my dad was an entrepreneur, so I was born into a small business, worked at a small business from a young age. And I think that's when I really learned the keys to that entrepreneurial spirit, the grit, the determination, that ability to execute a vision, but also be flexible and agile in continuing to try to improve. And I think having that foundation was really formative for how I approached my whole career in starting up ventures as well as working with founders. I really wholeheartedly believe that our small businesses are the giants in our communities and our economy. I mean, they demonstrate that every day, the kind of impact they have on our job creation, on our economic output. And so when I served as the Deputy Chief of Staff during the Obama-Biden administration at the SBA, I think I got that policy bug, that interest in really how can we develop programs and initiatives to really support our small businesses I know the challenges. I've been there with so many entrepreneurs as well as my own ventures, and so I wanted to be able to actually roll up my sleeves and do my part to serve at the federal level to help us create plans that could really support all of our small businesses and be inclusive about it. And I think that passion was just further cemented in California when I had the opportunity to really lead an effort that was focused on equity as well and trying to carve out small business support in the state and really lead for our startups and innovators as well. And I think when I look at my role at the SBA now and why I came back to join this exciting administration, the Biden-Harris administration, and the most diverse cabinet in history, I feel that all of those values are just deployed every day as I look at our programs. And I think we have a really unique opportunity now to address some of the market inefficiencies and close some of those capital gaps and opportunity gaps and build bridges to communities that we have not reached out to as effectively in the past before. And that's exactly what we're doing. SBA has scaled dramatically. We used to put out about $40 billion a year, and now we've done over $1 trillion during COVID in relief and grants and other support to our small businesses. Just in the past 6 months, we've launched 6 new programs as part of the American Rescue Plan and others, as well as revamped 6 others to make sure they were serving our businesses. And I think that's what I've asked my team to be, is in all that we do, from design to implementation to outreach, let's be as entrepreneurial as all of those small businesses that we serve, all of you small businesses out there in the audience, to make sure that we can empower them to access markets and access capital to take advantage of those opportunities and access networks to support them in the whole process. And so we are trying to be as customer first and technology forward and equitable in everything we do so that we can be the SBA that serves you all well.
Well, Administrator Guzman, there's no doubt that your story is the story of the success of the Latino community, the story of the immigrant that comes here and achieves beyond expectation. And there's also no doubt that you're very well prepared for the role that you currently serve. But I have to tell you that I've been stopped here at the conference on a number of occasions, and I keep getting asked the question that relates to the Paycheck Protection Program and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL program. Share with the audience here a little bit about both programs. Tell us, what is the SBA doing to help with the debt relief program for so many entrepreneurs, and how long can we continue to hope that the SBA will help us out?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the SBA's commitment is always just to help businesses reopen, start and grow, of course, and then create jobs and build that equitable economy. And the Biden-Harris administration is wholeheartedly committed to a full government approach to fighting COVID and taking a public health first approach, as well as supporting our economy, keeping it open. And I think a lot of the efforts that we've implemented in the first several months of the administration have really paid off, and we've seen the highest economic growth rate in 40 years, fastest pace of job creation of any president, 4 million jobs created. So I think that there's been progress, but obviously businesses are still struggling. As I travel around the country, I talk to business owners, and there's still uncertainty. Consumer behaviors are changing, again, with the Delta variant. Businesses have accumulated a lot of debt. Their costs are still high. It's still hard to hire employees. And so there's still challenge, and the SBA recognizes that. The federal government recognizes that. We still want to try to support. And in fact, recently, President Biden announced his COVID action plan to try to make sure we continue to fight COVID-19 with increased vaccinations, and that we keep the economy and the schools open. And part of that is what the SBA has remaining on the table. And we still have $150 billion in relief available through the COVID EIDL program, that Economic Injury Disaster Loan program that was referenced. And that program is affordable, long-term, very affordable, low-interest loans that that the government has over 30-year terms, 3.75% for economic injury. And for those businesses who are able to demonstrate up to $2 million is accessible. That's what we just recently announced, an increase to $2 million. And deferred payments for 2 years so that we can really recover and get positioned for future success. I think that program is going to be really key to especially our high impacted industries. And we've tried to make sure that it's as inclusive as possible. We have a mobile device application that takes 10 minutes so that you can actually access the program efficiently and regardless of what size of operation you are. So we really have tried to streamline operations as well to meet customers where they are. So that's a really important program. I mean, obviously as well, the Paycheck Protection Program was highly impacting. We had, on the EIDL, about $260 billion, but on the PPP, nearly $800 billion was put out through our incredible network of lending partners across the country. And we just are really emphasizing the importance of making sure that we deliver against that promise of forgiveness now. I have to say, too, that in 2021, the Biden-Harris administration's focus on equity paid off. And we saw that 96% of the loans went to smaller employers who had more difficulty accessing PPP in earlier rounds, so 20 and under employees. Rural low-income communities also were able to access the program. In fact, the GAO just issued a report emphasizing that the program was successful in really reaching underserved communities. And so, we're pleased with that, but now we know we have to deliver against that forgiveness. And so far, we've put back $540 billion into the economy through PPP forgiveness. And we just launched our direct forgiveness portal for $150,000 loan and under. And we think that, we're making great progress in order to make sure that we, recapitalize the marketplace and make sure that capital is available for all of you businesses to grow.
Well, Administrator Guzman, thank you so much for that, and congratulations on increasing the program to $2 million recently. That's phenomenal. But I have to tell you that in the past, Latina businesses were largely left out of the Paycheck Protection Program. And what will be different this time around to make sure that those small businesses, the Hispanic entrepreneur businesses, will be able to fully participate in the SBA programs?
Mm-hmm. I think what we discovered, and which we knew we'd already seen beforehand, that connection was key. Connecting to capital, connecting to networks and resources was really important for our businesses' success. And I think during COVID, that those barriers in the economy and those challenges that already existed just were made more apparent. And I think with Paycheck Protection Program, obviously that was a program that was looking for a distribution network, and the SBA's incredible longstanding public-private partnership with lenders fit the bill. But I think that obviously improvements needed to be made. So when we're looking at future programs that we can implement and ensuring that we are able to reach women and people of color who are starting businesses at really incredibly high rates, we are trying to rethink our approach. And one of the main things we've launched is through American Rescue Plan. And I know that my Associate Administrator for Office of Entrepreneur Development is in the audience today, Mark Madrid. We are launching the Community Navigator Pilot Program, because we want to make sure that we're partnering with local, trusted organizations who already have relationships with our Latino entrepreneurs, our Black-owned businesses, our women entrepreneurs, and that there's a trusted relationship there so that they can help those businesses navigate our resources. And that's the intent of the Community Navigator Pilot Program. I mean, in fact, it's one of the first things that President Biden talked to me about when taking this job. And so it's a really important initiative, but I do think it'll actually address some of the challenges in our ecosystem, because there are institutions out there that can support our businesses. And we saw that with community financial institutions, that they were able to connect better with so many of these populations and get them PPP in those final months of the program. So we do think that that's really key. But beyond that, we're developing and focusing on a Build Back Better agenda that will be inclusive and that will address the needs of our underserved entrepreneurs. And right now, I mean, they're considering within the reconciliation bill for the Build Back Better agenda important capital access programs and innovation and contracting programs that can better help serve our small businesses. But on the capital side that we're talking about, we think that direct lending is an important tool to make sure that we're filling any gaps in the marketplace, and especially for those businesses that are unable to access capital. And so we're excited about the future, but know that whatever programs we're issuing, that we need to make sure they're designed to meet our businesses where they are, recognizing their unique needs and the networks that they keep.
Administrator Guzman, I'm listening to you right now. I'm actually getting chills because, the programs that you have in place, I think, will lead to meaningful opportunities for Hispanic entrepreneurs. But I have to tell you, you can't really turn on the news these days without hearing about the infrastructure plan. And that's going to bring trillions of dollars, billions of dollars into the economy throughout the nation once it gets approved. Will there be a way for small companies to compete for those opportunities, and how can the federal government be inclusive of small minority-owned businesses to help acquire those contracts and to be at the table, as we say?
We're very excited about the bipartisan infrastructure deal. Of course, it's a game changer for all of our businesses, and including our small businesses. And I think that it presents a lot of incredible opportunities that we want to make sure our businesses are positioned to take advantage of. I think that the President has made it very clear across the board that contracting is really important. Procurement, how the federal government spends its dollars and ensures that we're supporting all of our small businesses is a key part of his agenda. And so, whether it's the Made in All America or the diversity in procurement, we are trying to focus on making sure we create opportunities for our small business contractors. And I think that within the Build Back Better agenda, there are some important programs that could really change our approach to make sure that we have contract-ready businesses with capital positioned to take advantage of opportunities. So we will, our efforts, and it will be to continue to partner with organizations that provide technical assistance and expand that so that there can be more technical assistance to get our businesses connected to primes or contract ready, accelerate their performance, and make sure that they can access these contracts to build revenue. Which we know, as is always discussed here at the Chamber, revenue creation, and that going after those contracts is equally important, to the loans or the capital or the investment. It's really a key part of the whole equation. So we're committed to it. I know my other associate administrator for government contracting and business development, BB Hidalgo, had hoped to be there with you live and was unable to, but just know that we're really committed to trying to create programs that lead to strong pathways to government contracting. And President Biden himself, at the Tulsa Race Massacre commemoration, had announced that the small disadvantaged business goal would be elevated to 15%. And that is a really important goal because our whole of government approach to trying to tackle that priority means that we will be prioritizing our small businesses, our diverse businesses, all of our underserved businesses.
Administrator Guzman, I will tell you that I can surely speak for the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce that we stand alongside of you to help you in every way possible to reach out to the Latino Hispanic community, because your success, quite frankly, is our success as well. Now, we have a couple more minutes left before our presentation will conclude. I do know that we have questions from Hispanic Chamber Presidents, and we have one right now.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Administrator Guzman. My name is Monica Villalobos, and I serve as President and CEO of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We're the quiet group in the back. My question is the following. The pandemic revealed systemic inequities at so many different levels, particularly the need for digital equality for small and micro businesses. In fact, the tech needs for most of those businesses had to be upgraded or advanced by 3 to 4 years in the period of a few months. How important is it to the SBA to help small minority-owned businesses with the digitalization process and access to adequate technology?
I love that question, Monica. Thank you so much. And it's, the work that our businesses have done to pivot and adapt, all of you, has really been so impressive. It's what inspires us to keep on going. And if you're constantly being willing to learn new things, then we definitely want to be right alongside you. In California, I actually launched an initiative, Get Digital California, and partnered with multiple corporate entities and private nonprofits and philanthropy to try to make sure that our businesses were positioned for success. And we know the future is in e-commerce and in being connected via digital technology. And I know that there have been extensive studies on that, and Google and Connected Council did a study and found that 3 in 4 small businesses said they've increased their use of digital tools during the pandemic. And e-commerce, I'm very excited by this statistic, but actually increased in the first quarter of 2020, equivalent to 10 years worth of growth previously. And so it's according to McKinsey, but it's that growth is remarkable, and I think one of the silver linings of the pandemic for our small businesses. We need to focus on getting them the technical assistance through our resource partners, and our resource partners are already doing it. Our small business development centers, our women's business centers have really stepped up, our SCORE chapters, to help our businesses adopt technology and leverage e-commerce, and the SBA is committed to trying to make sure we do that. And for me, it's especially important for some of our diaspora communities, Latino community, that could better leverage its connectivity, its cultural heritage, its connectivity to nations abroad. And when you access e-commerce, you're accessing the world. And so I think there's a huge opportunity, especially for the Latino community, when it comes to e-commerce and digital technology. And I'm very excited, of course, that the bipartisan infrastructure deal has a commitment through President Biden's agenda to deliver broadband equitably across the nation so that every home has it. And we want those businesses with less connectivity to be able to compete. And this is how we're going to do it.
Muchísimas gracias. Administrator Guzman, my name is Annette Soto-Landeros, and I'm with the Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to first thank you for your tenacious leadership during these very difficult times for our country. We appreciate you sincerely. My question is about climate change. It's been in the news, and as we see new destructive weather patterns. Many scholars believe that green technology will yield a multi-trillion-dollar investment here and around the globe. But for small business entrepreneurs wanting to break into net zero green economy, it's hard to find a place to start. What guidance can the SBA provide to these aspiring entrepreneurs who want to impact this evolving business sector?
I always say that I represent the 32.5 million small businesses and innovative startups. And so, I think that's, because I know that there's opportunities for our Latino community to engage in and all of our diverse communities to engage in, these important endeavors. I think, Annette, we've seen it across all states. We've seen it in Texas. The SBA is on the front lines of disaster along with FEMA and HUD, providing federal assistance through our disaster loans to individuals and businesses. So, we live it every day. The bipartisan infrastructure deal is a critical deal because it includes, strong investments in our infrastructure, but also, climate change and making sure that we invest in green technology. And small businesses will have a big role in that. The SBA actually has, quite a bit of support available for our innovative startups. And I think, the R&D investments that are part of the bipartisan infrastructure deal, are going to be really important, as well as some of the great programs supporting EV charging infrastructure and business opportunities around clean energy and transmission lines and cleaning up our environment. So I think we need to position all of our businesses to come with all their great ideas. As President Biden says, great ideas come from everywhere and anywhere, and especially in these impacted communities affected by climate change. Our diverse entrepreneurs have ideas as well. And so the SBA powers America's Seed Fund, which is a small business innovation research grant. and its companion STTR program to provide grants to stimulate the investment in R&D with our small business entrepreneurs. And so that's an important program that the SBA has available to try to seed some of those discoveries. And so it starts with investment to further explore an idea and come up with the pilot, all the way to larger funding and potential acquisition, depending on the type of innovation. We also have investment within the Build Back Better agenda. We want to make sure that we're directing capital to all of our entrepreneurs. And so with the Build Back Better agenda reconciliation bill, there's funding for SBA to pursue venture small business investment companies. And so we could start channeling that early stage capital to businesses through investment companies that we fund, and that'll include in the climate space as well. And then across our capital access program, we are trying to incentivize the manufacturing industries and climate related industries as well. So we want to make sure that we give the capital to these innovators and to these companies that are getting into this space. And be inclusive about it. So, we have also the last thing I'd say is that we have accelerators. So when it comes to networks, we have the accelerators that are funded, over $5 million a year. We've been funding these innovative accelerators to work with underserved communities. We have the grants through American Seed Funds, and we have, hopefully with the Build Back Better agenda, some investment vehicles with venture to really try to seed all of our diverse entrepreneurs in this space.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Administrator Guzman, the words digital access, adequate technology, accelerators, net zero green economy are words that I take away from those two questions that were just posed to you. In closing, if you wanted to leave the audience with one word today, what would that word be and why?
Well, this is going to be, I want to give one word to the chamber members and the chamber leaders, and then another one to the businesses. But for the chamber leaders, it's collaboration. And the U.S. Hispanic Chamber has just been such an incredible convening power for us. It's what has given us the success this year in a restaurant revitalization fund or paycheck protection program or EIDL. You're helping us reach communities, and that is so valuable. So I want to make sure you continue to collaborate with us. And for all the small business owners, in addition out there, I just want to make sure that the word is teamwork. And I think SBA is here to be your team. We have advisors to support you. Every business needs a team, and we want to be that for you. And so I just hope that you know that we are working hard within the SBA to make sure that we can meet you where you are and serve you and build those bridges back to you and to all of our great entrepreneurs around the country. And so those are my two words for each of the groups in this audience. But thank you again to the U.S. Hispanic Chamber for just being such a great partner to us. It's really helped in our success, and we know that together we can really build some great programs and opportunities for our entrepreneurs.
Administrator Guzman, thank you very much for the time that you spent with us. And let me ask the audience here to please join me in thanking you for such a great presentation today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. That concludes this presentation.
Many thanks to all our guests and speakers for their insights and information. This concludes our program. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you tonight for our closing awards gala.